Disclaimer. All following art, music, and characters are owned by their respective companies. Green Lantern Corps had just finally made it back into our home reality, and we're beginning to see the after effects of something along those lines. John Stewart, who had recently taken the leadership of the Green Lantern Corps, is really dealing with the mental stress of leading, and you can definitely tell on that. And things are, absolutely horrible, just as they always are for the Green Lantern Corps. He's really beginning to feel the cost of leadership. And as you could tell here, all the Green Lanterns specifically are beat to shit, man. They're all dead, dying, or pretty much already there, man. We're literally down to less than 400 of the 7,200 original Green Lanterns that make up the entire cosmos for the most part. 2 lanterns for every sector, being 3,600 sectors in the first place. Now, Kilowog comes up on him as he's thinking about all of this as lanterns die underneath their command. And Kilowog's trying to reinforce him. Hey, man, things were bad. We're trying to get back to where we were. But what's the plan? And Stewart just takes off. He doesn't even let him know. Because he knows how bad the situation is. This isn't new news to John Stewart. He's been sitting here stewing on it the whole time. No pun intended. And where he goes and he finds some guy beating up a giant construct punching bag, man. This is the prideful and arrogant lantern known as Guy Gardner, man. This guy's a hothead. So he flies next to him, and him and Guy are really, really, really old friends. They've been together since the beginning, pretty much between the two. And Guy asks John Stewart, he's like, hey, man, are we just going to sit around forever and not do anything? And he says, well, come on, Guy. And Guy is like, dude, no, I can tell how bad this is. So what's the plan? And John says, well, I'm sending one lantern out to do recon, and I really need someone who's dumb enough to do it. Guy says, oh, I'm going to grab my gear. He's excited, man. He's a hothead, and he's down to prove himself to anybody. So we switch back to Planet Juween. And on Planet Juween, Hal has taken on these 2 yellow lanterns back to back. He's just absolutely going hard on it. And these guys are tossing everything onto him, and the whole time he's not really trying to defeat them. He's trying to question them. He wants to know what's up with the Green Lantern Corps, and he wants to know why the Yellow Lantern Corps are trying to play cops, which is pretty funny to him, considering the Green Lantern Corps has always been in that role, and that's kind of weird to him. And this guy's just sitting here telling him he's gonna make him surrender, he's gonna murder him, he's trying to play on Hal Jordan's fear. And Hal Jordan says, well, what are you talking about? What was that word? And he said, murder, surrender, hurt, suffer. And Hal says, yeah, that one, surrender. I don't know the meaning. He just smashes him with a construct. And keep in mind, all these guys are used to just toying with everyone they've ever come across, because the Yellow Lanterns are so freaking powerful up to this point, because no one's ever been able to really stop them. And Hal basically slams him up against the wall with this construct and slams him up with the wall against his hand. Says, come on, man, thousands of Sinestros losers running around. I'm sure you've got time to see what's going on. I'm sure you know what happened. Where are my friends? Where are the Green Lanterns? So we switch back to Sinestro, and Sinestro is sitting around trying to maintain things on Warworld, holding them all to a higher standard, Sinestro standard, the highest level of order he could possibly accomplish. Is sitting here with Lysidrak and then the now second in command, former first in command, Soren Ignatu, and he can tell that she is just super frustrated about this whole situation. So he tells Lyssa to go wander off while he can have a very serious conversation with his daughter, and she smiles and walks away because her and Lysidrak and Soren Ignatu have always had real serious problems, and Lysidrak finally won out in the end, essentially, with what was going on here. And Soren Ignatu, just the first thing she says is, you used me. And the Sinestro just fires back, dude, firing at her fear. Hey, well, you allowed yourself to be used. Take responsibilities for your failures. Come on. You'll never learn from them if you don't. And she says, well, I'm a doctor, dude. I saw you dying. If you knew the Parallax Sphere entity could just bring you back to your prime, why didn't you do it? And he's like, well, let's sit down and face it. I'm your dad. I'm a master of fear. I know how it compels people, and I'm the guy who founded this corps, and I know it was deception, but You need to reconcile this, that this is actually an act of love. I saved you instead of letting you disappear like the rest of the Green Lanterns, essentially. Everything I did for you is out of love. And she goes to strike him, and he casually blocks it as the avatar of Parallax. He is immensely powerful. Though Soren Ignatu was the leader, and she is wildly powerful as the Yellow Lantern, the entity of fear is just too much for any average Lantern to handle. And he says, well, you know, I know what I could do and I know what I couldn't. I played you and made you the character I needed you to be. I needed a new figurehead for the Sinestro Corps because no one was going to believe that Sinestro should rule the universe with a new Lantern Corps. I mean, come on. I'm a master of fear. I could sense it within the people. They needed a different driving factor. When the Green Lantern Corps were gone, you fit that. But you're not the leader of the corps that the Yellow Lanterns need. Your kindness and generosity does not bring order, the true order that will yield the chaos in the universe. You got me here, and that's awesome, but now I'm here to show you how to rule, essentially. In the middle of this, he gets interrupted by his ring, and his ring says, wait a minute, a message from Slush. And it says that they were on planet Jeween fighting a Green Lantern. That's weird. And his identity is Hal Jordan, says the ring. And Sinestro panics. And he says, no way, show me. And sure enough, it's Hal Jordan. However, Soren Ignatu overhears and sees this, and the seed gets planted in her head. Well, maybe it's not too late. Maybe I can go back to being something other than a Yellow Lantern. But Sinestro gets, he gets frustrated. And all Jordan, out of all the fucking Green Lanterns, of course it would be Jordan who survives. So he says, okay, fine, he's a Green Lantern, but how is he supposed to oppose my entire cosmos-conquering army? I mentored him. I literally taught him from day one, and he's still that arrogant? Nothing but a disappointment, man. But Soren Ignatu in the background says, well, go ahead, take responsibilities for your failures, father. I mean, otherwise you won't learn from them. And she smiles and walks away, insinuating that, hey, don't forget that she is a Yellow Lantern, too, at a very high level, and she's playing on Sinestro's fear. She can tell Sinestro fears Hal Jordan. So we skip back to planet Jeween, where these two Lanterns are having a tough time dealing with Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan's just got one on the ground, and he's beating the hell out of him, and the other one's impaled on a giant iron spike, this Slush guy. And Slush finally gets a message back from Sinestro saying, like, dude, don't mess with Hal Jordan. You just need to get out of there. I sent some coordinates to your ring. Just ditch, man. And this other dude's like, just basically getting his butt kicked, and Hal's still questioning them. Remember, Hal doesn't want to kill them because that would be easily within his capabilities. He wants to find out what's going on. It's far more important to him. And so he's continuing his questions like, what are you guys doing here? What was all of this? What is this torture box, basically, that this place is that you guys are held up in? And he's like, you know what? Never mind. None of that's actually important. What happened to the Green Lantern Corps? And the guy says, nothing. And Hal's like, really? And he said, they ran away. We filled the empty void the Lanterns left, bringing order to the chaos universe, dude. What were we supposed to do? If they were really here, don't you think they would have tried to stop us? Don't you think they would have done something? The universe begged Sinestro to fill the void that was left by the Green Lanterns. And Hal says, okay, fine. I'm going to just keep punching you until you tell me the truth. And in the middle of all this, he gets grabbed by a construct and dragged into this giant yellow monster-like construct. And one of the Lanterns laughs, saying, oh, we got him. This is easy. You know, we locked up. We just needed one really good construct to deal with him, to hold him back. And we'll just bring him to a war world, and we'll end all this silly shit, you know, in one run. And sure enough, Sinestro's like, dude, no, you guys don't even know what you're getting. You don't even know who you're messing with. This guy is crazy powerful. And sure enough, this huge green emerald light begins to spike out in different places from this giant Yellow Lantern construct, and the entire construct explodes all over the entire place. And those two Yellow Lanterns are left standing there in awe of Hal Jordan, who simply says, okay, let's try this again. And the two ditch, terrified at Hal Jordan's power. He says, okay, fine, that was smart, but it's not going to work. And he takes off after him as fast as he humanly can, right on their tails as they travel through the cosmos. Getting back to Guy Gardner, Kilowog, and Jon Stewart, they're all debating on kind of what they're due. They're still trying to get up and figure out, they're trying to figure out where they're at, trying to set up their communications, all this stuff. And Jon looks to Guy and says, okay, well, while we're doing all this, you have 24 hours. If you're not back by that point, we're going to have to consider you just captured by the enemy or missing in action or whatever the case may be. And Guy's like, yeah, whatever. And he says, all right, dude, seriously, this is a recon mission. Focus. I need you to bring back intel so we know what we're dealing with. We don't even know if we're in our home reality yet. And Guy's not even paying attention. He's just looking up at the stars in his own world. And he looks back down after Jon tells him, like, are you even listening to me? And he says, okay, we done with this silly stuff, man. I don't have time for a crybaby goodbye. The time's running out, People are dying in the meantime. And Kilowog's just like, oh my god, dude, for real? You need to, I hope you learned anything from my training, because you are just an absolute, you're an absolute mess, man. And Jon Stewart, always a good friend with Guy Gardner, just shakes his hand and says, good luck, man. I hope I see you back. And Guy says, man, why do you guys insist on calling it luck, dude? I'm just good. The arrogant hothead flies off into space with hopes of finding out what's out there. And Guy and Kilowog, or Jon Stewart and Kilowog are left sitting there, and Kilowog's like, man, why'd you send him out there? Like, do you really even think he's gonna do anything you asked him? And he said, well, like, I mean, at this point, would you? Someone has to do it, and out of any Lantern I've ever known, he's the only one too stubborn, too arrogant to die, man. He's just too hot-headed, man. So we pick back up with Hal Jordan, who's chasing down these two Yellow Lanterns. He chased them all the way across this space system to some other unknown planet. We don't even know if this was planet Juin. We just saw them fly out into space. We finally come to another planet. It's implied by the panels that we've managed to make it to some other planet. And as he arrives on it, basically everyone's panicked, freaking out at the sight of everything that's going on. Everyone's running away, everyone's trying to get away, and Hal's like, okay, well, it's okay, people, tell me where those Yellow Lanterns went. I'm gonna go deal with them. And one of the kids he stops is like, he begins to panic. He's just frozen in fear, and his eyes turn yellow. And he's like, oh, okay, they're behind me. I got you. How ironic. Don't worry, I'm going to smash these losers. And he turns around, and there's an entire contingency of Yellow Lanterns who've all managed to get the jump on him. And not only that, but they've bubbled up in their constructs like these hundreds of people that they're traveling with for some reason. And he's really confused as to this, because the Yellow Lanterns don't normally take prisoners by any means. They normally just torture people, or at least use one person to torture a large group of people to feed on that fear, because the rings feed on localized fear, making them more powerful. And this is really unusual to Hal. And Hal sits here debating on kind of what to do. Of course, he's going to want to free these people, but he also needs to figure out where the Green Lanterns are so he can solve the kind of crisis at hand. With that being said, next chapter we're going to focus on kind of how Hal's going to deal with this entire situation, how he's going to dig himself out of the hole he's found himself in, and we're going to see if he can save all these civilians that are hanging out. That being said, guys, until next time, I'll see you then.